Hey, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining Fun with Saber Effects with Fett263. Tonight I'm going to primarily focus on the KR Pixel Stick, which is the Saber Armory's new rigid LED PCB strip. And Cal had sent me one to test a little while ago and asked me to kind of help out because it's constructed differently. So it actually, for Proffieboard and for other boards, it reacts a little differently with styles. There's going to be a few things I'm going to show. The first thing, though, and actually I'll get a few. I want to get a few people in. So hey, Max, I see you're here. I see a few other people. But that's going to be the primary. Now, if you have a question, put it in the chat. I'm going to try to keep an eye on the chat a little bit, and if I can answer some questions, I will. But primarily, I know that I've got a lot of questions about this, and I know there's been questions about it, and I've done a good amount of testing, so I wanted to kind of share. Plus, I told Cal I would get this done. Let me give a minute or two because some people don't join in the very beginning second. And actually, let me bring this up. Let's put this on. Right. Okay, there we go. So for anybody who's joining, I am going to talk styles, and I'm also going to talk editing styles. So if you don't have the KR Pixel Stick, but you still want to learn about styles, after I kind of do the intro, I'm still going to do that so you can see the library, you can see kind of the breakdown of styles and stuff. But this is going to primarily focus on this in particular, but stick around if you have questions also. So basically, the Pixel Stick, what Cal's done is he actually had he's manufactured these. It's all proprietary, but it's actually a rigid PCB, tongue-tied, with pixels on both sides. However, how it's done is you only have to actually connect to 3 pads, the data, the positive, the negative, on one side, and then it actually handles both sides. It's also being a rigid versus the flexible that you usually get with the NeoPixel strips. It gives you some of that capability too. But the way it's particularly the LEDs are set up. Oops, looks like I got a delay in my feed. Oh, there we go. The way the LEDs were set up is essentially what we're going to talk about tonight. First and foremost, actually, let me do this. Then I'm going to do a demo, and then I'll get to some questions, and then we'll talk through everything. What's going to be, let me show. So this is essentially now this is kind of a simple drawing, but in your normal traditional LED strips, you got 2 strips back to back, and pixel 0 through whatever is on one side, and then the same thing. And you have the data and the power going up. So both sides are essentially mirrors of each other. Now with the way that the KR Sabers, the Pixel Stick is it actually goes back and forth. So that's why I wanted to make this so I can explain. So your data and everything and your styles, essentially, they go here to here to here to here to here, and so on and so forth. So it creates a few certain styles. It's no issue, but some styles it actually causes the style to not work as you're used to seeing if you had a traditional NeoPixel. So there's going to be modifications that you're going to make to certain styles, and I'm going to go through them. I'm going to give you a rule of thumb, but at the end of the day, everything's customizable, so you can play with it. And I'm going to do a demo in a minute just to kind of show the basis for this. So that's basically what we're working with. Now, the other piece of this is that if you have the KR strip, you're really going to want OS 5. And I know it's in alpha right now, but one of the big pieces that Frederick did was being able to support that 264 pixels. And that comes from how many pixels are on the strip. But I had it up before, if you purchase this from Cal or from any of the other sources, there is a note in here, and it's for any of the boards. The LEDs are actually at 264, and that's because of that back and forth. So instead of you having like 144 pixels on one side, 144 on the other, and going from 0 to 143 in terms of the pixels for data, you're actually going 264 using that zigzag that I just showed. So when you set up your length of your blade, it actually turns into, I should have that larger for you guys to actually be able to read it. So So what it ends up being is you have to set the number of LEDs in your config to 264 in order to run these blades. But the reason you need OS 5, if you're running OS 4.8, there's a lot of lag, there's a lot of slowdown, and in some cases some styles kind of freeze. It's just because of that number of pixels. So typically the 144 was like the max that was default set. You could go a little bit over that, but going up to 264 was proven to be a problem. So Frederick made it so that OS 5 handles a lot more. And actually, I have it in the description for this video. If you haven't seen Frederick's video on his new 4-strip zigzag blade, it's kind of crazy, but I think he's got 500 or 600 some odd actual pixels in his blade, and he can do really crazy stuff with it. But that's for OS 5. So the first piece of this puzzle is going to be you're going to need OS 5. If you're running OS 4.8, you can use some of the styles. And you can probably use some of these workarounds that I'm going to show you guys tonight. But when I was testing it, there's a lot of lag. There's some styles that just can't run on 4.8. And it's because of the changes that Frederick's made to support this 264 pixels in OS 5 that a lot of this stuff is going to come be able to work. So I think let me just peek in the chat. Let's see who's here. Max, Mountain Sabers, hey, Nick, Rodney. Chet, hey everyone. All right, so I'm gonna give me a sec. I gotta switch over my screens, but I want to kind of demo this. So let me switch this real quick. Okay, I gotta go here. No, that's not what I want. That's what I want. Okay, and then. Okay. All right, so I am now going to move. You may not hear me for a sec. All right, let's get these on. So I want to, actually I'm going to make sure you guys can hear me because I changed to the other camera source. So if somebody just real quick in the chat for me say they can hear me. Real quick, I'm assuming you can because it shows a mic symbol. And nobody's chatting. All right, I'm going to go on the assumption that you all are hearing me. So what I've got on the left side is the, okay, good, I saw somebody right. This side here, the left side, this is going to be the KR Pixel Strip. On the right side, this is just my regular NeoPixel blade, the traditional setup with the 2 back-to-back. So first and foremost, this is just a simple stripe setup. But that back and forth that you see in the when I showed that little picture, what that does with stripes is the size of the stripe gets affected. And you should notice it. The stripe is essentially half the size of what would normally be. So what I've done for both these sabers just for setup is they're both actually running the exact same style, but I want to show you the differences in certain styles that comes up. All right, so now I'm going to change this one. So for stripes, to fix stripes to be equivalent with the pixel strip, you're going to actually double the size. And I'm going to show all this in editor. I just want to give this as the basis. So if you have stripes, and a lot of my newer styles use stripes for a lot of different purposes, so that's why they were looking odd for certain people. For stripes, in order to get them to be similar to the traditional, and this is pretty close. It's double now. The blades aren't perfectly lined up because they're different, basically different lengths. But they essentially, if you double the size of the stripe, it will come out the same as what you're used to seeing. All right. Now let me track these two. It's hard with this camera in the way. So now I'm going to put the stripes in motion. So the way stripes works, in addition, so the first one had a 0 speed on it. The speed on these is the same. Actually, these are the exact same styles. Because the size of the stripe is affected, it also technically interferes with the speed. So you're going to notice on the left, the KR strip is actually running, it looks like half speed. It's not actually. It's the same speed, but because you're dealing with more pixels, double the pixel count, it's essentially making it look slower. So stripes, you don't touch the speed if you want the same effect. And I'm going to show that now. So
So just all I did for this style now is I just fixed it so that the size is the same and the speed was untouched. So, and I'm going to write this all down, and I'm going to do a write-up. I'll give Cal a copy also. I'll probably post it on TRA and a few other places like all the groups. The first piece of this, if you want to fix styles that aren't working in the KR strips, any style that contains stripes, you're going to want to double the size of the stripe. And I'll show you the parameters in the editor when we switch over back to that. But so stripes, you're not going to actually touch the speed of the stripes, that's why I'm going to have to write this up, because certain styles react different ways. All right, now let's go to the next one.
Do not defy the council, master, not again. I shall do what I must, everyone.
All right, so now these are hump flicker. I don't have the bottom on my fallen, so it's going to keep getting those false clashes. I should have screwed the bottom on. So ignore the clash sounds. Hump flicker, although it's hard to see on hump flicker has a similar issue with size. So in person, it's a lot easier to see. The green humps on the left side, that's going to get annoying real quick. Let me do this neat. Nope. There we go, muted. All right, yeah, if I don't put the bottom on that, I get, unfortunately, a lot of false clashes. So sorry about that. So with hump flicker, which is another style that gets mixed in a lot, the variable for size actually comes into play also. So the left side, the KR strips, the hump is actually, it's technically the same value, but it looks larger, and that has to do with how the hump's calculated. So hump flicker is another style where the size is affected by how these pixels are set up. So now we'll retract this. Now by adjusting hump flicker,
Do not defy the council, master, not again.
So even though the size of the hump is actually larger on the KR, you are actually going to also double the hump size on the KR. Again, just like stripes. So stripes, you double the size. Hump flicker, you double the size. And you'll get the same result on both blades. And now these are really simple styles just to give kind of the basic premise. All right. Let's get to... All right, so fire is going to be a big one. Oops, got to change presets. So fire is the one that's most affected by the length of these strips. So you'll notice, this is, again, exact same styles on both blades. The left is way slow, both in ignition and also how it's moving, whereas the one on the right is how it's normally looking. So how we fix that is actually, again, it's going to come, this one's going to be speed. So stripes, size, hump flicker, size. Fire is the speed, which again, I'll show the variable. But fire, you actually have to triple. And I'm going to show that. So that's why it's not like a straightforward thing. That's why I needed to do this type of a video for everybody. So let's pull that away. It's really slow. So now, tripling the speed of the fire essentially gets it pretty close. Now, the other part of this that comes in that I have not found a way to fix, and it's not as noticeable in the video, the size of the actual groups of fire. So fire has kind of has like clumps of effect. The size, there's no real way to adjust it. So for fire to get close, it's not going to be 100% match, and on the video they're pretty close looking, but just because of the density of these pixels, the fire, if you triple the speed, it will look similar, but you can't get a perfect match on fire that I've found. Now somebody else might play around more and get it, but there is still going to be a little bit of difference in anything using fire. Let's pull these in. All right. So now another one. Oops, so now my unstable, the main Kylo Ren unstable styles that I have set up, the original film-based as well as the ones with the unstable swing, they use a fire as the baseline. So you're gonna, when you're adjusting them, and again I'm going to show all this on, you have to also triple the speed. So even though it's an unstable style, I'm going to show everybody how to look, but when you're in the styles, it actually does use fire. So the fire one will be tripling the speed for that. Now, so let me show this. And I'm sorry I'm not able to see the chat, so if you guys are writing, I'll catch up with everybody. So now this is with the speed tripled. Again, because the grouping of the fire gets affected by the pixel density, it's not going to be a perfect match, but by tripling the speed on the fire portion of the unstable blade, it gets it pretty close. Now in person, the gaps are a little bit more noticeable. They're a little washed out on the camera, but for my unstable styles that use fire, you're going to be doing the triple the speed to get the result. And it'll be close. It won't be a perfect match. The fire, no matter what I adjusted, you can't get it perfect, and I think it has to do with the density of the pixels because of how fire is actually a very complex style in what it's actually doing. So for that reason, we're going to say we get 85% there, 90% there with the tripling of the speed. Oops. All right, so this is one of the unstable styles, but this one uses stripes, and this is the Rage version. So with the Rage version, because it's stripes, now because of the speed of these stripes, you can't tell too much difference, but there is actually a difference in the size of the spacing. So this is regular, matching the same style, and then where'd that button go? This is with the doubling of the size, and in person they're much more lined up. Now because these styles are so fast, I think the camera shows it pretty well. You're getting, if you want any style that contains stripes, you're going to follow that doubling rule. Now you can tweak it if you want to go like 180% or something, but the doubling rule of thumb works pretty well for that. So you're going to have to read the styles to know what's making them up. So this is the Rage version. It doesn't use fire, it uses stripes. But you have to adjust the stripes if you want it to be the exact same as traditional. And I've got one more, and then we'll switch over to the other view for everybody. Just what happened there? Oops. Yeah, it's giving me a hard time tonight. Huh. I think my battery's getting low. I've been doing too much testing. All right, let's get this in. Nope.
Master Quack on.
All right, so this is the last one. Now I don't have the comparison because for some reason I think this battery's going out on me. So all good intentions. This is the smoke blade. So this one I'll show this on the other screen. So smoke blade uses two factors. Smoke blade, for those of you who are using it, it actually uses fire and stripes. So for that reason, this one's going to be more complex. So because I can't compare it, it's going to be a little trickier to show.
Master Quack on.
But this is what it should look like. And what we do for the smoke or any style that contains stripes and fire, we're going to triple the speed of the fire, and then we're going to double the size of the stripes. And then we get it to look how it's supposed to look. Again, anything with fire won't be 100% match, but this looks a lot better now because my Fallen V2 is messed up because I didn't, I think it's the battery, but at any rate, I can't show the comparison, so I'm going to switch over to the other screen. But hopefully this is enough of a baseline for everybody for what we're going to talk about next. So let me save the battery on this guy and switch over 1 second. I'll catch up with chat and then we'll switch screens. All right. Okay, let's go here. Oops, that's not what I want to see. This is what I want to see. All right, let me catch up with everybody. And let me bring this back up too. So, and actually I think it's better, probably more. That works. Okay, I gotta scroll back through that chat for everybody. Okay, there we go, good, good. Okay. Slow fire, yeah.
Yeah, so the fire that I showed, and I'll walk through on the screen in a minute. The fire that I showed is the real flame. Now, obviously, I didn't show all the how it changes based on angle. I was more showing for speed on what you're going to adjust. But that's there. Let's see, start now. Okay, yeah, okay. Looks like, all right, no questions. So let me get over here to where you're going to make your edits. And again, I will have a red, and you don't need me on screen. I think this is probably more important. All right, so the first one that we're talking about is stripes. Now, stripes is in a lot of styles, but let's start with the fallen order. Now, I did show the fallen order style. I just had made that basic style, and if you recall, oh, Brian says my audio is lagging. Okay, I hope it catches up with me, or this. I have good internet, but okay. I'm going to go forward like it's not lagging. If it gets really bad, hit me up in the chat. All right, so the stripes demo I showed, again, rule of thumb on stripes is you're going to double the size of the stripe. And actually, let's go in here and just do it real quick, and then I'll show you on a real style. So this is, I think, roughly what I had done. Oh, no, I did, yeah. And we'll put it just at 0. Helps my fingers work. All right, so this is the very first one I was showing, and what we saw was that the size of the stripe was basically half, and that comes into play here because, so on that pixel, so on a normal strip, say that my stripe is supposed to be 3 pixels high. It was, you're going to get 1, 2, 3, so it's 0 to 2 essentially. Each switch, oh, I have more delay? I don't know how to catch that delay back up. Well, I apologize. But, all right. Yeah, I don't know. This might be tricky if you guys are hearing different things. All right, I'm going to hope for it to catch up because I don't know how I can sync back up. Everything looks good on my end. All right. Yeah, switching cameras might have been the cause because I did switch mic inputs. But, all right, I'm going to move forward. I do apologize if it's not syncing up. So say that we had a stripe the size of 3 pixels. So these 3 pixels in traditional. If I go to 0 to 2 on this side, I actually only get to this height. So if I did 3 pixels here, 0 to 2, I would get a larger stripe area. So that's what's happening with the stripes. Now, again, for rule of thumbs, just to make it easy for everybody, I'm saying double the size of the stripe, okay? And that's what has gotten it pretty well. You're not going to touch the speed of the stripe unless you want to, but if you're trying to make it match, you're going to double the size of the stripe. Now, if you're doing it in an editor, all of a sudden it's going to look different, but that's because the editor's based on the traditional, but you would just double the size. So, or they call it the width. I'm sorry, I keep saying size. Stripe width is what you would double. So by doubling the width, now here, if you preview it in editor, it's going to look different than what your end result will look at, but that's again because of that density of those pixels. So rule of thumb, anything with stripes, just double the first number, and that will get you pretty close. You don't touch the speed unless you want to mess with the speed, but the speed actually, if you noticed when I did the comparison on the second one, the speed of the perceived speed being slower was actually just due to the size of the stripe. All right, so hopefully I've repeated that enough. Again, it'll be written up, but stripes, any style with stripes, which I'm going to show you a bunch, double the size of the stripe, double the stripe width, and it will be close to what you want. So where I was going, and I didn't show it because my Fallen Order battery, I probably need to charge that. I had that on all day. The Fallen Order style actually contains stripes in it. So if you want to do Fallen Order, the new styles I just put up, you'll see right away stripes are here. So you're looking for stripes, and you're going to look for that first value. So if you load any style up that has stripes and it's not how you want it to look, particularly so again, speed with stripes is actually a result of the stripe width. So you're not going to touch the speed to get what you want. You're actually going to double the stripe width. It'll look weird on this screen, but when you put it on your the KR Pixel Strip, it'll actually look like it was supposed to, like it was designed for the original traditional. So on here, now because of the speed of these stripes, you don't see it, but it's what creates, so stripes just in general, and this is from a few of my other videos, is great for creating movement in a blade. It's not just about having a striped blade, because stripes lets you stretch the stripe size out or the width out, and then also adjust the speed and also adjust the direction using positive and negative. I use stripes in a lot of styles. So most of my newer styles that have a lot going on with them, there's going to be stripes somewhere in them. Now, sometimes it's the very first piece, but sometimes I'm going to show you in some other cases where it's actually a little bit buried, so you're going to have to look to find it. And unfortunately, I already know the question's coming because I've got it in the past. I really can't change the library to adjust for the KR strip. As much as I'd love to, it would just be a nightmare for me to try to code and maintain. So if you do have the KR strip and you do want to adjust styles, that's the reason I'm putting this video together. It's going to be up to you to go in and edit it. That's why I'm trying to give everybody good rules of thumb, so that you can get the result that you're used to seeing on your traditional blade running on the KR Pixel Stick. All right, so doubled it. So stripes are going to double. All right, now I'm going to show the fire one, and then I'll show the combo one, and then I'll circle back for questions. Yes, I see Mountain Sabers, Thunder and Lightning. Yes, Thunder and Lightning does use stripes. So again, for anything containing stripes, you're going to just double that stripe width. I keep saying size, but stripe width, which is the first number in the stripe style. All right, now we're going to show fire. Let's go into one of these fires. Now, the fire I showed is oops, yeah, we'll get back to unstable. Where'd you go there? Yeah. Is the real flame. Now the real flame, you can't actually customize it and enhance it. I meant to fix that. So what I'm doing is I'm copying it to my clipboard, and then when it's in your clipboard, just come in here and paste it. The other ones you can, but there's a ton going on in that real flame. One day I'm gonna have to break that down for everybody. That one, there's a lot there, so I've stayed away from it. But this one, and any of the ones that have the responsive flame, Real Flame has it, as well as a bunch of the other fires. They actually have two fire styles going in them, and the two fire styles work together to get you that fast when it's pointing up and slow when it's pointing down. So let me submit this and turn this on. So this is the fire I was showing. Now it's going to move because the editor emulates the shrinking and growing of the blade. But you're going to edit the speed of the flame. And that's what's going to get you that 85% match, maybe 90%. It depends on your eyes, really. For me, because I know what I'm looking at, I can see the pieces of the flame looking different still, but it gets pretty close. So you're going to, anything that uses, so first of all, those of you who aren't familiar, you probably want to check out the crash courses because I'm kind of glazing over a lot of this other stuff. But mix is what's enabling the responsive part of this, where it changes speed. So if you see a mix, just know in the back of your head, you're going to have to change it in two places. If you don't see a mix, it's just a single fire, you're good to go. But pretty much most of my flames that have the responsive, they're going to use a mix. You're going to find your fire. So this is the first version of the fire. And what you're going to look for is the speed. And you're going to, now this might sound a little crazy, but it's through a lot of testing, you're actually going to have to triple the speed. And it's, Frederick, I'm sure, could explain this a lot better because he created the formula for it, but fire has a lot involved. But changing the other parameters didn't really do a lot. It was the speed that actually did it, and it has to do with how they calculate the movement and that kind of fluidity of the flame. So if you want to fix the fire blades or a style that contains fire, we're going to adjust the speed, and we're going to triple the speed. Now, again, that's a rule of thumb. You might triple the speed and not love it. You can back it off a little bit or add to it a little bit. But essentially, from what I've been seeing, tripling the speed is what will make it do what you want on those blades. And again, the editor is going to show it really different than what you're going to see in those pixel strips. So now it's going to almost be blinding because the editor isn't going to keep up with it. But that was the first one. And again, mix means that there's more than one thing going on. I'm going to scroll and find that second fire, which is color 2. And here, the speed was set for 2. So again, I want to triple that. So I'm going to find it in here. And I'm going to triple that. And again, if you're not used to editor, check out the crash courses because I break down how you use the editor a little bit more. I am going to fly through that with the expectation that most of you who are joining me have used it before. And then I'm going to scroll back up and I'm going to see it. So on the screen, it's going to look crazy fast, but this will get the end result of what you were used to seeing before I made those changes. And it's really just tripling that speed anywhere there's a fire. And then everything else you don't have to touch. Everything works great. And then the hump flicker was the last one. Hump flicker I'll just show real quick. Actually, let's go over here. We'll just grab a hump flicker. I don't think I had one preloaded. So let's put it in what I had. So hump flicker is the other one. So now I have tested a lot of the styles in my library. I've also tested a lot of the baseline styles. I have not done everything. So you may come across some other styles that are not 100% matching on the Pixel stick. A bulk of them, I've tested most of the ones that people use the most and most of the ones that are in the library. And it really is, it's going to be stripes, it's going to be style fire, and it's going to be hump flicker are the ones that are the most affected. As long as you're on OS 5. If you're on OS 4.8, I said this at the top, but I've been talking for a while, OS 4.8 has a lot of other issues with the size of that 264 pixels. So it gets in the way. You're going to want OS 5, and then these are the changes you make. So now I showed this earlier. This is the size of this hump flicker, and you'll notice the green. Now when you go, if you put this hump flicker this exactly as is on the Pixel stick, it actually, the size doubles. In order to fix it though, you're actually, because of how hump flicker is calculated, you are still going to double this number, and then it'll make it look like it's supposed to look. Now on here, it's going to look really odd, but again, it's that pixel density that I keep coming back to. So because of how it's figured out, having these pixels basically going back and forth, each one being different, is where all of these changes are coming into play. Now for fire, there's other calculations involved, but that's essentially what you're seeing. Other things like ignition, the shapes, which originally in my head I was thinking shapes were going to be an issue. Shapes are no issue. Shapes fit, work perfectly fine. Most everything else is going to work okay on OS 5. There was a lag in some things with 4.8. So if you're using the Pixel stick and you are using 4.8, you're going to want to move to OS 5. If you don't want to touch it while it's alpha, that's understandable. I would just be patient. I'll talk a little bit about that if we have time. But basically what you're going to want to do is get OS 5 and then handle these changes. But let me show one more. I want to show the unstable. And the unstable, I'll show you where that is. Let's just grab the basic one. So this is the one that I use the most. This is, I think, probably my most popular. This is the one that's based off the film that I actually designed a long time ago. It does use style fire as the basis. Now this is an easy one. It's right here at the top. If you want it to look correct on your blade, you're going to find where it has the speed again, and again, fire gets tripled. So you would triple this, and on here it's going to look really nuts, but on your KR Pixel stick, it's going to look perfect. So on here, it's actually, on here it's going to actually be too much to be calculated. I think the highest I could get it working properly was like a 14 or a 15. So if you see this in editor, don't worry. When you move it over to your blade, it works fine. That's what I wanted to show this. It's unfortunately that's more a limitation in this emulator because it's not as condensed as the other version is. So that's that. And then let's close you up. And then the smoke blade. And there's going to be a bunch of other ones that do stuff like this. Where'd you go? There we go. Smoke blade, the thunder and lightning. Thunder and lightning is only stripes. Thunder and lightning only has stripes in it. But the smoke blade has stripes and fire. So you're going to look at the stripe. Now, Smoke is another really complex one, but you're just changing the stripe width. Now what's happening on this stripe width, so this is the stripe width, it has a function in it. The function is actually changing the size. All right, and there's a few styles that do this. Some of the crazier ones, I think Kaleidoscope does this, and most likely Lava Lamp. Excuse me, I need a drink, my mouth's getting dry. Talking too much. So again, any style that contains stripes or stripes X just means it's going to have a function. So if you see the X, don't worry about it. You're just changing the width. You're doubling the width, but because this uses two widths, you're going to double them both. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to double this, submit it, and I'm going to double this, submit it. And then this one has another stripe section, so you're looking for all your stripe sections. This one has stripes here. I'm going to double this one. And I'm going to double this one. And then this also has a fire in here, buried. Oh, there's more stripes, I forgot. This has more stripes. Don't forget to hit submit or else you lose your place. So you're going to want to scroll this side looking for your stripes. Did I miss a stripe? I don't think I missed a stripe. I did not miss a stripe. And then where's that? There's that fire. I knew there was fire in there. Here's the fire, and I'm going to triple the speed of the fire. And this one's a nice easy one. And then we'll just go to the end, but I'm pretty sure that was it. Yep, once you hit the transition effects, you're good to go. Unless you're using transition that has stripes in it, there are a couple. Ripple, so if you use the ripple, that's going to be using stripes. But most other effects don't use stripes that I recall. No, some ignition effects. If you use power-up effects or cooldown effects, there's stripes in there. So some of the effects, I have to take that back. Some effects will have stripes. You'll have to go in and fix that. But you're going to want to fix the stripes, double them up. And then now this is going to look a little odd. It's a lot faster than smoke normally looks. But again, that's due to the pixel density. When you move it over to the actual blade, it will look correct. So it actually turned out to not be terrible in terms of the styles that you need to adjust. But some of the styles do have a lot of adjustments in them. So you'll just have to look for them. And basically, if you go in, make the edits, load it on the blade, and you're not 100% happy with it, just make small tweaks. The doubling of stripes size and hump flicker size is pretty close. It's in all my comparisons, it's almost a perfect match. Now there's differences between the blades and stuff like that, so it's never, depends on your blade. And then the fire is definitely tripling the number. Doubling the number still didn't do it. You needed to triple the speed on fire. So let's see. So that's all there. Let me get over to any questions we've got. Let's see. Close that up. All right. I got to catch back up with chat. Most of this is about... yes. Yeah, I wanted to touch on OS5. So OS5 is in alpha testing. Actually, I saw a question earlier. I have to scroll up. Where did it go? It was really early. I hope you're still here. Anybody who left, if you catch me later, I know I missed. There it was. I did want to touch on this and I moved. Twist on and off. I put this in the testing thread. There is a bug. It's actually in the twist event. It's not in battle mode. And I've been I gave it to Frederick. I did a ton of testing just to narrow it down. It's not all the time, which is what makes it hard to catch. But there's something going on in twist. Frederick had an idea of what it was, but he needs to look closer. But it is known. If you're using if you're using my gesture file on 4.8, or if you're using battle mode, my prop file for battle mode on OS5 alpha, if you're doing a twist, and it's either twist on, twist off, or if you're using multi-phase for the twist to change presets, if it all of a sudden your saber acts up, either the sometimes particularly with fire styles, if you use multi-phase, it's locking the board, but also sometimes your sound stays on when the blade retracts. There's a lot of little weird things, and they're not happening all the time. They are tied to the twist event, and I did a lot of testing and ruled out everything else. It is something to do with event twist. Frederick's already got it in his cord. I'm sure he'll figure it out. But the twist on, twist off, any of the controls using twist, again, it's not all the time. So you might have been testing and never encountered it, and all of a sudden it pops up, which is what was happening to me. I actually didn't encounter it until people started bringing it up, and it was more than one person. But it has to do with how the order of the sequence of events, how you're basically in the OS. Frederick explained it to me, but I'm going to butcher it, so I'm not even going to try. It's a known issue. It's a bug in the alpha. It will be addressed before we move to beta, but that's really it. If anything else other than the twist is working perfect, everything else is stable that I have seen and done. Unfortunately, the twist off is tied to battle mode right now. So if you want to not run into that bug, you're going to do the holding the aux button and swinging to get out of battle mode, and then use your power button to retract. Now again, once this is fixed, it won't be an issue, obviously, but also when we move to beta, my plan will be to give more control using define, so you can change up the controls a little bit more to customize them. I know everybody's got a list of things that they want to be able to do. OS5, let me get this. So absolutely. The change that was made, and again, Frederick will explain it a lot better than me, is just to be able to support those really long strips. Like his was going up to like 600 pixels, the 264, and it had to do with getting the data through all the way to the end. And again, technically he would describe, I think he actually does describe it better in his video on his zigzag blade that he made on his K4. But if you have a regular strip, there's no change. Everything's fine. The changes and everything I've talked about tonight, if you joined late, this is making adjustments for the 264 pixel KR Sabers Pixel Stick. You don't have to do any of this if you just have regular old NeoPixels. I don't want to misspeak for Cal, but as I understand it, future runs of that pixel stick will revert back to the two side by side. And actually, it was just this initial run where they go back and forth with the data signal. That's why you have 264 pixels. It's not that it's 264 on each side. We're used to 144 on each side back to back or some combination of that. The stick is actually back and forth. So the data goes from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3, blah, blah, blah. That's where this is coming in to play with the fire, with the stripes, with the hump flicker. And this is where OS5 needed to be able to get that data signal to move through this density better, and also the density that Frederick created with that 4-strip crazy blade that he's got. So if you have regular strips going on OS5, there's no change. What comes into play is in your config. I think I have my config. Yep. In your config, if you have the KR, again, almost everything tonight is solely based on the KR Pixel Stick. I have the Shock NeoPixel connector, so I added 5 to 264. So you're going to change the max LED strip to 269 at the top. And then at your blade config, you're going to also set it up. Now, for this one, I didn't bother with subblades because it was for testing. If you had a subblade, you would do the 264, and then you do 269, and then you'd set up your other 5 pixels for the connector. But that's essentially what we're talking about. Is if you have the pixel stick, which is the 264 pixels, that's what everything tonight is about. That's what the change to OS5 is. Let's see. Yeah. So yes, so the locking up, the hum remaining. I think there's also some like phantom clashes. My phantom clashes were totally just because I didn't have the bottom of the Saber closed up, and that speaker just is too close to the board. So that's not that, but it's tied to the twist event. So if you're just using everything else on OS5 and you've never used any twist control, you'll never run into it. If you use twist control, 9 times out of 10, you don't get any weird happenings, and then you'll get something weird. Actually, probably more than 9 out of 10, or yeah, less frequent than 9 out of 10, because I did it for a while, never came across it, but it is known and it is being looked at. Let's see, yeah. Technically, third button is up to you in the prop file currently. OS 6, and again, Frederick will correct me if I'm wrong. OS 5 is trying to get out. Now, we do have to deal with this twist being fixed, and then obviously get into beta. So twist will be fixed. Once Frederick figures it out, we'll test it out. If everything else proves out, we'll move to beta. Hopefully get through beta quickly, and then OS 5 will release. But new stuff like the third button support, a couple things that I can't talk about yet, and then also some other requests that Frederick received are already kind of penciled for OS 6. Zero idea when that is. Just Frederick did not want to load even more into OS 5, because obviously that stretches out when it can get out. And he's trying to get this out to support the 264 pixels. Yeah, Twist is doing weird things just in general, Adrian. It's been a little different for everybody. I was able to replicate a couple of the things, but still some of the stuff people were reporting I couldn't replicate. But basically, because there's a bug in Twist, right now my gut feeling is that anything weird in OS 5, if you've done a twist, is tied to it. Now, if you're getting weird things and you've never used a twist control, and again, that's twist on, twist off, or the multi-phase, which is holding aux and twist or power and twist. If you never use a twist control and you still have weird things happening, report that in the alpha thread. It's, for me, I've never been able to replicate anything else except for these twist things, and I did a lot of isolating. So I actually took every control that had twist on it out of the equation, gave them other controls, and then it never happened. And then when I put the twist back in, it took a while, but it did happen. And in some cases, I did it for probably 20 some odd times, and I never had any problem. And then went back to it and did it again, and it happened. So it's not a consistent thing. Again, Frederick gave me the explanation, but a little more technical than even I got. I got the idea that he knows what it is and he's going to work on it. But twist seems to be the cause of it, but it's causing several things. But it's after you've done a twist event is when it's popping up. If you're getting something without twisting, that's something different. So report that. Okay. Cool. Yeah, definitely report back anything. Like I said, in my thread, I noted that if you're getting issues after doing twist, then for right now, let's just say that's the cause. You don't necessarily have to report that. But if you do something else without ever touching twist, report that. But if you report other stuff, it's okay. We already know about the one issue. Let's see. What's KR power line changes? I don't know that one. I'm not sure what that question is, Mountain Sabers, if you want to give me a little more clarity on that. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what that question is. But yes, so right now, Frederick will figure out twist. We'll get that sorted, finish out alpha testing, and then he'll give the okay to move to beta testing, which will hopefully bring in more testers and have fewer issues. And we'll move along with that. And let's see. All right, I'll come back to that. And wiring. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure on the wiring. So, and just to be transparent, Cal sent me the blade already built. So I haven't actually wired one of them, although in the video it looks stupidly easy. I haven't wired it. He sent me that blade complete to test, so I didn't actually wire this one. But it works perfect. So, and if Cal didn't do it right, then nobody would. But I don't know. Yeah, that might be a question for Cal. I'm not sure specifics on wiring. The OS wouldn't have anything to do with wiring for the blade. The change that's happened in OS 5 is more supporting getting that data signal through those 264 pixels. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how to answer that, so apologize. And then, Brian, I think you're still on. I know you asked me a question. I'm running low on time. I'm going to just quickly touch on it for you. This is probably the easiest way to do it. Where are you? So, Brian, if you're not on, hopefully you catch this because I know you asked me this question on Facebook. In OS 5, there was a change to responsive styles. It added what's called location. I'm going to do a bigger explanation on it when OS 5 is actually released, because what I'll do is I'll also update the styles in the library. So right now my library is supporting 4.8. I do have a change in there for battle mode that's built into the styles. It does absolutely nothing on 4.8 to negatively impact or change or have any compile errors. So that change is in place currently. The change with location for the responsive, stab, melt, drag, I can't put those into the library yet because they're OS 5, and OS 5 is an alpha, so they're not there yet. So what I'm going to show you is just kind of a rough explanation, but I will explain more when OS 5 comes out. But essentially, it actually came from a question you sent me a long time ago. You may not recall it. The responsive styles related to melt, drag, and stab, they use smooth step. Now, in smooth step, and this goes back to knowing stuff about responsive controls, in smooth step, the width, so the second variable in smooth step, is actually what is responsive. So you can set your top and bottom, and then the turning of the hilt is what was changing the top and bottom. And what would happen is it would stretch that gradient out. So you'd get that really long stretch. And it was because of how originally I was using it. But what happened is smooth step has two variables. It has technically they call it position. I called it location. You couldn't touch it in the responsive styles. It was locked for all intents and purposes. Location gives you access to this. And again, I'll go over it more when OS 5 releases. It's a small change. It's really for very specific uses. If you wanted your drag area to have a hard edge, if you wanted your lockup or melt to have a hard edge, if you wanted to move them, if you wanted to change the controls, I had to introduce it. Essentially, all it is it gives you access to the position parameter of smooth step. I've called it location. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it's a question that Brian asked. It has to do with some changes to responsive styles on the alpha test, and they were seen in GitHub. Right now there's no live use of it. It's basically to allow for this. So the library after OS 5 comes out will have it, but essentially location is tied to smooth step, and yeah, so it does essentially just controls where that edge comes into play. So that's what that is. So you did ask about it. I definitely cover it more once OS 5 releases. So hopefully that gave you, I think, looks, oh yeah, okay, you got it, yeah. Yeah, that's what it was. And I'm pretty sure it was you a long time ago when we first put out the responsive stuff, you wanted to actually change it. So it came from that. But if you actually dove in the code on battle mode that I've added, there's actually kind of the precursor to it already in place, but it's done differently. And that's to do with getting that drag. It basically slides the position of the smooth step instead of the gradient. So the original responsive just changed the gradient. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was you. My memory isn't that terrible. But it comes into play. So, and it does come into play with battle mode for the automatic melt and drag. The original styles for responsive were not perfect for what I wanted to be able to do control-wise. So if you have styles for battle mode from the library, you will actually notice that responsive melts and responsive drag have actually disappeared. They've been replaced with something new. It does the exact same thing. Nobody would notice it, but I'm just letting you guys know. It's the precursor. When OS 5 comes out, responsive melt and drag will be dropped back in. And it'll look the same. I just pulled it out to let me do something that will work in 4.8 for battle mode. We'll flip it back in. the end result for you guys, if you just use the styles, they look identical. It's really just, it was to work around something that needed to be put into place that won't be there. It wasn't there at the time. It will be there in OS 5. Cool. Any other questions? I will unfortunately have to tap out at 10. Again, I cut out an hour to be able to do this, and it's kind of a deal with the wife that I don't push that. Plus my voice starts to go, and I find I end up rambling. So if any other questions in the next minute or two, I will answer them. Hopefully, again, I'm going to do a write-up, and I'll give Cal a copy of the write-up. I'm going to put it on TRA, and I'll probably push it out. Effect sequence, yeah, that's going to be next week, Brian. That is new. Again, because effect sequence is going to be hard to show without editor for some people. I'll touch on it maybe next week, but it'll all be hand code because it's not an editor yet. Yeah, I'll touch on it next week. I think I didn't want to mix it in here because I had told Cal I was going to do the testing and I was going to try to get this stuff out for him. So I kind of dedicated this show to keeping up that end of the bargain. So that's really was the main focus. But yeah, effect sequence. If you haven't seen the video, effect sequence, I'll give you a kind of a precursor on it. It just lets you put in a lot of different. You can put in different effects for the same effect. So you can have multiple blasts that happen every time you blast it, and they happen in an order. That's where the sequence part comes in. But it's for any effect. It actually it's so flexible. I had such a crazy amount of ideas that it's probably going to take me forever to get them all actually out there. But yeah, I'll touch on it more next week. But it'll ultimately probably need the editor to really teach people with it. But I'll touch on it. And if I don't remember, remind me next week. Any other questions? Otherwise, you guys have been staring at this boring back and forth. Let me get you something different on screen. We'll put me up just for giggles. So thanks everybody for joining. Again, I keep going on tangents. The write-up will be coming. Hopefully the next day or two. I'll put it on TRA. I'll post it in the Profi support group. I'll post it in open source, and I'm going to give a copy of the write-up to Cal just so he has it available. But rule of thumb, again, just to get you guys going, any style that contains fire, you're going to triple the speed value, and that will get you pretty close. Any style that contains stripes, you're going to double the stripe width, and that will actually get you pretty much dead on. And any style with hump flicker, you're going to double the hump size, and that will also get you pretty much dead on to what you're used to seeing. Again, this is all for the KR strip. Oops, I clicked on the wrong thing. It's all to deal with the fact that we have 264 pixels on the KR pixel stick versus how you usually have two strips back to back. Everything that we're talking about, everything I was showing tonight is just to get you to be able to have those. If you have them side by side, they look as close as possible. Now, if you run into other styles that look different, just post it up. TRA, the Proffi group. I tested most things, and those were the three that needed adjusting. But I'm gonna, thank you. Thanks, Mountain Sabers. Thanks, appreciate it. Hopefully this helps everybody. Anybody who's catching this after live, I'll once I have the write-up done, I'll put a link in the description so that you can actually get to that write-up easier. If you did join me tonight, thank you so much. And if you need that link, I'll put it everywhere once it's written up, but I will also be in the description of this video. You can come back and get it from there. And then, hopefully helps everybody out and you guys get to enjoy those strips. They are really nice. As I said, I didn't actually put this one together. It looked super easy though, but it's makes it a lot easier. But dealing with that density of pixels, there is some edits you're going to make to your styles to get them to run. And just in case anybody missed it, I think I said it 100 times, but you need OS 5. OS 4.8 is going to have some other issues just with the size of that, the 264 pixels. So if you don't want to touch alpha, if you want to wait till OS 5 is released full, just wait. I would just say hang out. I don't think it'll be that long. I don't have an exact ETA because we do have a bug that Frederick's addressing. But if you don't want to mess with the alpha stuff, if you don't want to even mess with it while it's in beta, just wait till OS 5 releases, make these edits, and you're going to have that KR pixel stick will be exactly the same as what you're used to. Yes, and I've got to jump off, but yeah, I can show my dark saber next week. I'm messing with trying to come up with a new version of the style to support because I put the RGBW strips in there. So my original dark saber style in the library is pretty good, but it's based off of having RGB only. So it actually leans towards the blue side. I want to actually create a version that handles the actual having that white dye. So I'm going to remake the style. I might add some flair to it. But yeah, I'll try to demo that next week for those who are interested. If I have the style ready. If I don't have the style ready, it kind of seems moot. But so thanks everybody for joining. I am going to cut out. I do appreciate everybody. You can always send more questions in, and thanks for joining. Have a good night.